Welcome to Fearless Finances, where I try to take the fear out of your finances. Today, we're talking about Trump's new pick for the BLS, the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. I mean, after all, he is the first president to ever fire somebody from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics simply because he did not like the numbers they published. Granted, he said he can't trust the numbers. But we all know Trump's a liar and a cheat. And recently, I came across this Abby Phillip panel talking about the new hire, which also features Scott Jennings. And you know how much I love him. Actually, there's some really good points in this one. So I'll meet you on the other side.
President Trump's pick to lead the nation's labor stats is pushing to end one of the most crucial measurements of U.S. economic activity. In an interview with Fox News, E.J. Antony suggests suspending the monthly jobs report, claiming the data is flawed. Now, earlier this month, Trump fired the former Bureau of Labor Statistics commissioner, and he accused her, without any evidence at all, of rigging the July jobs numbers to make him look bad. Now, that same day, Antony appeared on Steve Bannon's podcast and had this to say about who should fill that role instead.
Have we put in our own person into BLS? Is a MAGA Republican that President Trump knows and trusts? Are they running the Bureau of Labor Statistics yet, sir?
No, unfortunately, Steve, we still haven't gotten there. And I think that's part of the reason why we continue to have all of these different data problems.
Okay, everybody, I'm super sorry. And maybe I'm not super sorry, but whenever I see this man or a lot of MAGA men, I can't even think of any MAGA man I've seen that I just don't get creeped out whenever I see them. Look at these dudes. Look at them. They're creepy. I don't understand what attracts people to this. But to the news piece. I think this is the last time we have to see them.
Now, that man is the Heritage Foundation's chief economist. He has a master's and a doctorate degree in economics. But it was so interesting to me to see what other economists have said about not just what he's said, but his actual work, like his work product, these papers that he's put out. Here's one. I've been on several programs with him at this point, and I've been impressed by two things: his inability to understand basic economics and the speed with which he's gone MAGA. Another economist. His explicit only qualifications are that he works in ultra-conservative think tanks and believes Trump's conspiracies about BLS. Others say the articles and the tweets I've seen him publish are probably the most error-filled of any think tank economist right now. Huge questions right now about his qualifications, his understanding of economics, including in the Wall Street Journal, by the way, tonight, in a pretty scathing op-ed. Why is Trump nominating this person other than just to get the numbers he's looking for?
Well, obviously, he has the pleasure of the president. He enjoys the confidence of the president, and he'll have to go through the process.
The pleasure of the president. Good gravy. The thing that I think is so interesting about that, well, there's a couple things. Point one, Scott Jennings likes to say that all the time. It's like the big excuse for nominating the most stupid person for the job. And sometimes not even just stupid, harmful. But here's the other thing that I think is just ridiculous. It speaks to how they're hypocrites. Because if Joe Biden had nominated anyone as incompetent as everyone who serves at the pleasure of this president, this man would have a fit. And so would the rest of the MAGAs. Can we just be real and honest? I don't know if anyone will ever be able to trust anything that comes out of their mouth. However, I will tell you, I did see some hope with some of the Republican pundits that are in this. So hang on and let's watch for that.
I think the main thing he should be looking at is why is it that the BLS data constantly has to be revised, and not by a little, but by a lot? I've wondered this for a very long time.
It's not a mystery. We know the answer to that.
Okay. So
it's because
if we know the answer, then why hasn't it been fixed? That's the next question.
Because survey responses have gone down.
Why wasn't anything done about it?
Before we move on, and we might actually rewatch some of that because it gets a little convoluted, but I love how Abby Phillip just calmly says, Scott, you know why that is. Because he does. These Republican pundits go out there and make something out of nothing. The fact that these numbers are revised is because they wait on surveys from business owners. Now, it's business owners that would reply to the unemployment numbers, or the employment numbers is probably a better way to look at it. I'm one of those business owners that have filled these out. How many employees do you have? How many employees are you currently looking to hire for? How many employees do you foresee hiring in the next year? Are you with me? These are the questions that are in there. And what effectively happens then is, for example, that final question, how many employees do you project hiring in the next 12 months? Let's go with 12 months. So employers who said that a year ago had certain goals based on what they thought might happen, and they responded honestly at that time. But then when it got closer to the date, those numbers change. And this is the other thing. Do you think my email from the BLS is the first thing that I respond to? Or do you think even sometimes I might even delete that? Yeah. So what ends up happening is there's a lag time in the data. None of this is a conspiracy theory. None of this is to get back at Trump. This is the way this has worked all along. And by the way, this is the same process for the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, or any of the other measures that the BLS would take care of. They wait on responses. And so the data can change. I am so tired of people building up conspiracy theories about the most normal things. It would be very helpful if people stopped acting in fear and tried to seek out legitimate reasons why something might happen. Normally, that's the truth. But back to this discussion, because I do love how Abby puts Scott in his place.
You said something earlier, the pleasure of the president, of course. The answer is whatever Trump wants, he gets. But I'm really asking you, do you really think that that's the only thing that matters in a job of this significance?
Well, it's one of the things that matters because he's a presidential appointee. The other thing that matters is that you have the kinds of qualifications to do it. The president thinks he does. The president's personnel staff.
But do you think he does?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know the guy. I mean, he has an economics degree from an accredited university, and he has strong opinions about this. So,
like even the journal.
He's got a doctorate. Doesn't he have a doctorate in economics? I mean, that's not an easy thing to throw around.
It feels like you don't like him because Trump appointed him.
Listen, I don't know the man. I'm asking you.
You and I have the same level of personal
I'm asking you about his qualifications because the journal tonight in their
We got enough real things to deal with.
op-ed, it literally pointed out just straight up factual mistakes in his analysis of BLS data. I mean, basic stuff that he's put out on social media that everybody can see with their own eyes. In some instances, these economists are showing that he's completely misreading charts and graphs. That's a basic problem. That's not even going into the details of how you put together statistics on the unemployment rate, the inflation rates of the entire country.
I'm not qualified to judge his qualifications. I can barely calculate the tip of a meal. I think what is disqualifying is when he says openly, publicly in an interview, yes, I think we need to get someone political, essentially, into this apolitical job. But this is like putting a flat earther in charge of the maps. I mean, the maps are the maps, the data is the data. They don't like the data, so they'll get someone in who will say the data is better than what the data is. That's bananas, but it's going to lead to our country not being trusted by other countries.
I just have to step in here for Scott's really important tell. Let's watch this again.
What is the data? They don't like the data, so they'll get someone in who will say the data is better than what the data is. That's bananas, but it's...
There you have it. Did you see him look down? He knows it's bananas. He knows it is. He absolutely knows that supporting this president is crazy. And that if this was in any other circumstance, in any other world, he wouldn't like what's going on either. And he would not sit there and support it. Lately, I've been wondering how long Scott Jennings is going to sit on this panel and continue to allow Abby Phillip to correct him. I mean, kudos to him that he does so far, because there's a lot of times on here that I see what he's doing as pretty racist, especially when he is supporting and how he supports Trump's immigration policies. I don't even think how he supports them matters. Anybody who does support them is not supporting the America that I hold dear. After all, it's our whole diversity that actually makes us great. But anyway, back to this discussion.
And it's going to lead to our country not being trusted by other countries and people not wanting to invest in our country when we're installing propagandists in jobs that should be apolitical. But we've seen it over and over again. Don't like the results of the election? Call up that guy in Georgia, see if he can find more votes for us. Don't like, worried about the president's health? Get a doctor who'll say anything we tell him to say about the president's health. Don't like this hurricane map? Get a Sharpie. We'll change it. This is why people start losing faith in governments, in countries, when they can't believe.
In this moment, I kind of feel bad for Scott. It's like a sad little boy face. I think he wishes things had turned out different. I've talked about this before, but I've never showed this before. This is Scott Jennings' op-ed for CNN on January 6th, where he basically calls to all Republicans to condemn it. In fact, here he goes through all of the proof. How Trump caused this on his Twitter feed, how this is a sign of domestic terrorism, that we should not stand for this. And by the way, Scott Jennings has never backed away from this. Scott Jennings, if January 6th comes up, he will say that this was wrong. He can't seem to say, though, that it's wrong to pardon all of them. And he talks about the fact that we should support this man's policies when he's an insurrectionist. Why would we support someone who does not support our laws? So when I say that Scott Jennings looks sad here, I believe that. He's sold part of his soul. They all have. And for what? Quite honestly, for what? I heard a pundit the other day talking about the fact that he thought that no MAGA Republican, not one person who served in this administration, supported this administration, should have a career after this. And I wholeheartedly agree with them. Unless they start to speak out now and actually begin to help our democracy and to actually help all Americans and actually stand up for the ideals that we were founded on, which happen to be immigration as one starting point, well, then I say, get the heck out. You're the ones who should get out. And that's the thing that I was thinking about today. Like, everything a MAGA says actually relates to them. All of it, including get out. If you don't like it, get out. But back to CNN.
Things that really shouldn't be politicized.
I think that there's a point here that needs to be made that nobody's talking about, is that this is something that the American people can understand. They may not understand all the parts about the moving parts. If you're a Donald Trump MAGA, you say he should be able to whoever. If you're a left-wing Democrat like me, you're going to hate everything that he does. But folks in the middle be like, I understand not liking the data. Most folks don't like the data on their scales when they stand on it, and they get a new scale because they don't want it. That one's broken. This one must be broken. But that's so simplistic, and I made that line comment to be like, people get this. They get the rigged system piece of this, and I think this is what's going to bite them in the butt.
I think this is just another scary action in a line of actions where the president, there is a public servant who's doing their work, supposed to be in a nonpartisan way. The president doesn't like the facts. He fires them and puts in a crony lapdog. And I think this is an alarm bell for Congress. I'm working with some of my colleagues at looking at, I think we have to make some structural reforms when we have the levers of power again. And what Donald Trump has shown us, and he won't be the last, hopefully he'll be the last president to do stuff like that, but he won't be the last to try, I think. I think Congress is going to have to take away some of this power of firing and appointing people on positions that are supposed to be nonpartisan. One that really concerned me was the Librarian of Congress, which the Congressional Research Service falls under. That's where we get all of our nonpartisan information and research to write all of our legislation. They're trying to take control of that as well. So this isn't the only instance where this is happening.
He raises an excellent point, but I'd like to take that a step further. I think we need to simply revise the entire Constitution. We need a new platform for government. Did you even know that the fact that we have 2 senators per state is so that the racist South had as much power as all the other states? Most of us don't believe in most of the garbage that's going on down there. And by the way, economically, they can't even support themselves. Did you know that even that's where the Electoral College came from? So that the southern states would have as much voting rights or equal voting rights with the areas that were prospering more? Why are we hanging on to these sick and old ideals? Did you also know that, as an example, the Mexican Constitution is only about 100 years old? When I told one of the Mexican people that our Constitution was 250 years old, they literally laughed. Like, why would you continue to base a government on a constitution that is that outdated, with that outdated of ideals? Who would have thought? How many Americans would have never considered that Mexicans would be more progressive in helping people? Did you also know that just recently the Mexican people voted for their entire Supreme Court? And under the new part of their constitution, that will happen every 3 years. A president doesn't nominate them. A Senate doesn't approve them. No, instead, the people vote for their court, and it gets turned over every 3 years. How many people listening to this think that the United States could benefit from similar policies? Yes, but instead, things are gummed up because of sad-looking Republicans like this that actually vote against their best interests and that of the American people. Because I don't know, they really are racist and think white people should be in charge? Or they really are sexist and don't think women should be elevated? Scott Jennings doesn't look happy. And I don't think anybody is really happy unless they're actually living their authentic life. And I'm not living my authentic life if I've sold my soul to ideals that I truly do not value. Where we started this, Steve Bannon, oh, I think he's living in his glory. Stephen Miller loves it too. Donald Trump, yeah, he loves it. But people like Scott Jennings, and I might even say people like Marco Rubio, they are not living in their authentic self. And that's why they're not happy. Back to the video.
Trump doesn't like those facts and wants them to replace their chief economist. This is a pattern. When the data, to Essie's point, when Trump doesn't like the data, he just says, get someone else who will give me the data that I want.
How scary is this to consider, especially since so many colleges and businesses and law firms have kowtowed to Donald J. How many Maggas even know that this is going on? How many people who voted for Donald Trump and are putting us through this even know that things like this are happening? How many of them running around, acting like everything's okay? Do they even know that people are getting rounded up and shipped off? Do they even know that they've taken away immigration rights from people who were here trying to enter this country legally? Do they know this? Because I got to tell you, there's part of me that thinks that if you're not going to be engaged, if you're not going to pay attention, if you're not going to know what's going on and even try to educate yourself with facts, don't vote. Don't vote. Please don't vote. You're hurting us. Get educated, find out what's going on, take the time to really know, or don't vote. Oh, and I think I need to qualify this with this. I don't expect you to know as much as what I've got going on with this. But listen, If you have somebody in your life who is like me, who does know a lot of stuff that's going on, talk to them. I tried to talk to lots of people before the election. Some of them said, I don't want you to change my mind. Really? You don't want facts. You don't want to know what's going on. You would rather hang on to ignorance? Do better, people. We deserve better. One of the things that I frequently said before the election, there's absolutely no reason to vote for Donald Trump. It didn't matter on what indicator, what they would say to me. There was proof that Kamala would do it better. I even gave one gentleman who claims to like do so much research and stuff. He does day trading, and he even sent me one video of somebody and I debunked it. I mean, some of the information was fine and some of it I couldn't comment on. Or I should say wouldn't comment on because it was about individual stock picking and I don't get into that very much. But there were a number of things in that video that indicated to me that he was off base. And I did additional research and even paid for a resource to be able to actually read the article that he cited because it seemed skeptical. And sure enough, once I looked it up, it was just like this BLS stuff that Scott Jennings was talking about. How somebody changed the numbers after the fact. And it all could be proven, and the article itself was factual, but he misinterpreted it and misled his audience. I also went on to tell this person that if you're ever using a source that doesn't quote what they're talking about, like I had to look up the actual link for that article. It wasn't cited in the doobly-doo. And I told this person, if you're relying on information like this, these are not sources that I use. We went around and around a little bit, and then we started talking about the election. And I looked up both Kamala's and Trump's website to give him the information. Kamala's website was polished, it had information about what she was for, how she planned to do it. Trump's website looked like it was created by a 12-year-old. It'd have just like a paragraph. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Wouldn't you rather have this? Because this is what we're going to do. And it was like black. I mean, it was bad. But I sent him my research on that too. Later on, he told me Kamala really isn't saying what she's going to do. The delusions are astounding. Now, this is a scary thing. This particular man is a very nice man. He's helped me do a lot of things. He's very kind, and I don't think he's stupid. I just think in the circles that he travels, he hears things a lot. And the things that he hears supports white men and puts down a lot of other people. I think there's far too many people who could not or would not vote for a Black woman. And I don't think we talk about that enough. That the only time that Donald Trump lost an election was against a female person. And for some reason, even though a lot of people knew that Joe Biden maybe wasn't the best candidate on the Democratic ticket, we had to put him up there to get all these people who can't vote for a woman or a Black person. I don't know what we do about that. But I do know what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep talking about it. I'm not going to shut up about it. And I'm also going to tell anyone who says anything so silly as Kamala didn't or Joe Biden had a horrible, whatever their delusion is. Because this Trump delusion syndrome, the real TDS, it's got to go back to CNN.
Listen, I can't disagree with anything as he said earlier, but this is politics, and it's done all the time.
This is not
It's not normal, but it is. Like we talked earlier about statistics. Do you know how many mayors manipulate crime statistics that are they're just not accurate when they're running?
United States.
I'm talking about New York City.
What he's doing here is attempting to normalize some of this bad behavior. And the reality is Republicans do this a lot. And maybe Democrats do too, but I see it so much from the Republicans. And the reality is what Trump is doing right now is not normal. We cannot let this become normalized. FDR tried to take some of these same liberties, but back in those days, the Supreme Court rolled it back. And some of the rulings then are going to come before the Supreme Court again. And there's a lot of people who are afraid, including myself, that the Supreme Court will not rely on precedents. After all, they didn't with the overturning of Roe either. And they're doing so many things under the shadow docket where they don't necessarily even have to give rationale for the choices that they're making. But anyway, I want to get back to this piece because this gentleman is actually going to share a few things that give me a bit of hope. Back to CNN.
Presidents don't actually have not done these things. Donald Trump is doing them.
Okay, there's a lot of things that Donald Trump's doing that I don't agree with, and there's some things that he's doing that I do agree with.
There's that sliver of hope. Gentleman has been on here a lot, and he has said some crazy things in support of Donald Trump. But when he just said there are some things that he does that I agree with and some things that I don't, is the first time I've ever seen any sort of balanced or measured response. And I'll also say this, his tendency to try to want to equalize this is what a lot of Republicans do. I've said that before. And I think that's what they believe in their mind, that Democrats do these same things, that all politicians do this. And because of that belief, they can let things with Donald Trump slide. This is where part of the delusion, the Trump delusion syndrome comes in. Because these things aren't true. I've heard people say that about Hunter Biden, right? Well, what about Hunter Biden? Well, yes, what about him? What is he doing that's the same as Donald Trump's kids who actually worked in the White House? You see, Hunter Biden did not. Right now, the Trump family has made $3.4 billion. Now, some Maggas out there might be going, well, what about Biden? Biden family never did anything like that. Never. And if you think so, put some proof below. I'll do some research on it. I'll happily do that. Because this is the thing. The whole Biden crime family came from Trump. Everything that Trump says actually relates to his behavior. Everything. If you enjoyed this video, I encourage you to subscribe. I'd love to see you back here again. If you'd note in the comments what your favorite line out of this was, I'd appreciate it. I had to take a moment to think about it because I did like the whole check response. I did like the scale response, but I do think it was when Abby just said, Scott, you know why that is. I think that was my favorite line, but you let me know. And if you'd like this video, it'll surely get out to other people. And in the meantime, here's some other economic videos, including my first one about this firing of the BLS. And I'll see you there.